Welcome to Forever, man. Let's go. Come on. This forever. No surrender. Yeah. You know that this right here forever. Go. And there will be no surrender. Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me J.O. N to the easy E-N. Know that we undefeated. Y'all are beneath them speeches trying to air a grievance, but his lines are overhead. Better check the air for clearance. Call the tower. This is ours. Clear the heat. The air apparent. Really, I've never been better. Legacy, this is forever. All the more times I've been severed. I'm raising the bar. You can go ahead and measure. Think about time for a toast. Time that we welcome to go. Yo, we're just leaving. I think about time that somebody go get them their coat. You know I got all that anthem. Come back in what you call that add-on. Got anthems and bands with masters. Getting them right like my name was Miranda. I ain't bigger dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead than alive. One more time. This is forever. Remember the legend. He never gon' die. I ain't bigger dead than alive. Bigger dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead than alive. Dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead than alive. Bigger dead than alive. Just making sure that you know why. Because this is forever. And there will be no surrender. Yeah. You know that this right here forever. No surrender. It's forever. You know this right here forever. No surrender. It's forever. You know this right here forever. I am just leaving a legacy. I am the one that they paid us. Got something to say to me, say it. You know I've been waiting so patiently. This is my legacy. Y'all don't believe me, then wait. Basically, I have been running things. You can just go on and take a seat. Loving they hated me, put that on everything. Not on my level. You can't be the enemy. This is the plan that we showing them anyway. Hit up the lawyers and give them the NDA. Woo! This is the brand new. This is the brand new. Nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. And there ain't no thing that you'll be taking from me. Man, it came from nothing. Made it something. Name is buzzing. Call me Ryan Gosling. Hey, gon' know that they gonna love me more when I'm gone or retired. The throne, the kind of things that I'm gonna be feeling like a god. Because this is forever. And there will be no surrender. Yeah. You know that this right here forever. No surrender. It's forever. You know this right here forever. No surrender. It's forever. You know this right here forever. I ain't bigger dead than alive. Bigger dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead than alive. Dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead
Welcome back, Kings fans. I am Jesse Cohen. She is Carlin Baith. This is Tape to Tape. Carlin, did you see all those super fans at the Kings game on Wednesday night? Was it last night? All the days are turning into one. But
what
at
day is
the
it?
last Kings game, I think
Yeah,
it's Thursday.
last Kings game, the Kings game before that, this past week, since April 20th. Yes, I've been seeing all the Kings super fans, and it's been incredible, Jesse.
It has been incredible. Tons of super fans. And hey, Kings super fans, Mercury Insurance is looking for you. Visit mercuryinsurance.com/kings to learn how you can win some great prizes, including the grand prize of a luxury box at home. That grand prize includes 55-inch Toshiba 4K HD Fire TV, 4 Adidas Silver Team signed jerseys, Blaze Pizza gift card, McDonald's stuff. We've talked about it. Again, Instagram or Twitter or mercuryinsurance.com/kings. Multiple weekly winners will be chosen at random to receive prizes such as, we laid them all out. And, of course, a guest appearance on the Fox and Faust podcast. Carlin, last night's game, talking about superfans, was the first game with fans back in the building. They've all been great, but last night was the first game that, to me, felt almost completely normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there were "Go Kings Go" chants.
Yep.
What was your feeling?
It felt right when they returned for the first time, right? For the first game on April 20th. It felt like, okay, this is so right. And I appreciated, all the protocols that are put in place, all the space that everyone had. Like, it kind of just looked like, okay, we're doing it and we're doing it safely. This is great. Last night felt like, maybe people had a few under their belts, like, I've been to 2 games already. I've got this. Like, I'm ready to hockey. And it was just like, yeah, we're ready to hockey. It felt like, yeah, we've done this a few times. We've got some practice. And then now let's open it up a little bit. Let's open up our lungs and make some noise in here. It was pretty cool, Jesse.
It was pretty cool. And before we get to the other thing that made it even more cool, we're going to touch on our Would You Rather real quick.
Okay.
I saw a variant of this on TikTok. So I'm stealing this from TikTok. I apologize. The account's name, I can't remember. But their question was, would you accept a one-time $10 million payment if once a year Randy Johnson could drill you with his hardest pitch for the rest of your life? It's a fascinating little conversation. So I'm going to modify it, Carlin. Okay. And I'm going to say that for a one-time $1 million payout, you can either once a year take a body check from an NHL player of your choice, or a slap shot from a random player that you do not get to choose.
And I get $1 million either way?
Yeah.
I mean,
but you have to pick your payment.
I think I would do the slap shot because having been hit in hockey, there's more things that can go wrong. You can have way more ailments, I think, from a massive body check than you could with a dinger of a shot. I would take the shot. I'd try not to get it hit in my face. Hope it doesn't pop my spleen or something, and just be like, you know what? Wait, am I fully equipped? Do I have full hockey equipment?
You do not.
Well, then I'm gonna die. That's I mean, neither. I would pay $1 million to have neither of those. No, there's a lot of factors, a lot of variables there. But if I were fully equipped, I would take the slap shot. And even that would no promises on where it would land. So, what about you, Jesse?
Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm sure in many ways you and I are very different people, Carlin.
Of course.
I would take the check because I get to choose who gives it. And
interesting.
So, I would find the smallest, lightest player in the league, and I would say, all right, well, the odds are, because if it's random, what if it's Martin Ferk taking the shot?
109 miles per hour to the back of my shin pad where there's no, padding. It's just the Velcro, and I'm dead. And
So anyway, fortunately, neither of these things will ever happen. But back to what made last night's game so cool. It was, in fact, the first NHL game for Quinton Byfield.
The Los Angeles Kings are proud to select Quinton Byfield.
Here's Byfield, a shot, he scores! Quinton Byfield, it's goals in 5 straight.
You saw him in his first practice yesterday. You'll see him in his first game today, yes.
The GP will see you now.
So Quinton Byfield playing his first game, obviously second overall draft pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. Carlin, I have been saying all season long, this game is the most important game. This is the biggest game. This will be, the game that answers the most questions for us. But last night, I think, was the most excited I've been heading into Staples Center all year.
It was so special, Jesse. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Quinton and for everybody there that's watching, or just to see a debut. They're so few and far between, right? So it's just so special to begin with. And then he put on such a great show as well. I was tallying up his stats at the end of the game, Jesse. He had 4 shots, almost 18 minutes played. He got plenty of time on the power play. They put him straight to work. Just like anybody else in that lineup, first game or not. And it was just so cool to be able to witness all of it. And Jesse, I'm sure you heard too, even just his first shift was special. You could hear the buzz in the crowd and people were clapping as he, hopped the boards.
Yep.
And then as he finished his shift too, people clapped one more time. Like everyone knew how special and significant of a moment that was. Seeing a young kid's dream come true. He's still a kid. He's a teenager, and
Yeah, he really
it was just magical to see happen last night.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from Todd McClellan was the morning of, I think, or possibly the day before. Somebody asked him, any plans on how you plan to slot him into the lineup? And McClellan said, we're not playing him to hide him, right? We're gonna use him. We're gonna call his number. We're gonna give him a shot. Don't worry about mistakes. And he didn't make any glaring mistakes that I can think of. And I will say, since the advent of smartphones, I can't tell you the last game where I watched almost the entire game without constantly pulling my phone out or being on Twitter. And, certainly now that I've come to work for the organization, I'm up in the press box, you're talking to people, you're maybe a minute late or two getting back to your seat. Whereas when I was just a fan, I didn't leave my seat during the intermissions because I didn't want to miss any of the games.
Yeah.
And, when I was a kid going to the games with my dad, there were no smartphones. So that's it. You watch the game. You talk to the person next to you, you watch the game. Last night, I tried to watch the entire game because I didn't want to miss a second of Quinton Byfield's first game.
Well, I do end up having to watch the entire game when I'm working, and I work in a different way that you do, right? So,
Yeah.
But I will say this, like you, I was probably more zoned in than usual on one specific person. I'd never been more paying attention to one player than I was last night, where every shift I was just laser beaming. Okay, what's he doing? Wow, good stick. Look at that play. A shot on Gibson. Let's go. Like it was something else, and an extra layer of hyper focus that I'm sure we felt in both different ways. So it was awesome.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I'm a crazy person, so I still go to Kings Twitter, Kings Reddit, all the message boards, letsgokings.com, Hockey's
Sure.
Future, Facebook. Like I'm still trying to consume as much information as I can from as many sources as I can about the Kings. And one of the really gratifying things for me was seeing essentially the same evaluation that I came away from the game with myself, repeated time and time and time again, which was this kid looked perfectly comfortable, looked perfectly competent, looked like he could be the second line center. If the season were starting today, you'd go into the season going, all right, sure, Quinton Byfield, second line center, no problem. He didn't get any points, fine, whatever. As you said, he's an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But there were obviously some parts of his game that he'll develop. He probably needs to put on a little, a few more pounds, grow into his frame. Let's put
Sure.
it that way. But just the raw interaction with the game, his facility with the puck, his awareness of the geometry of how the game moves and where people are, was really impressive. And I'm just thrilled because of a huge amount of anticipation.
We lost your audio, Jesse. I'm anticipating what he was just about to say with a huge amount of anticipation. Oh no, Jesse. We'll be patient. I can't hear you now. No. Should we cut to commercial real quick if we have one and maybe see if Jesse can fix his audio? He says yes. Yeah. I want to.
Velarde to Carter now. And Carter. Tic-tac-toe, Velarde. That shot altered by an Avalanche stick. They score!
We're gonna be just chilling here for a second while Jesse gets all of his technical things put together. Look at him holding a microphone right there, just to emphasize some of the stuff that Jesse was saying. It's one game in for a young player like Quinton Byfield, and I think he had kind of a blessing of a season this year with the OHL not coming back. That could have been a place where he started playing, and now it's like it's just such a shame that that season didn't end up happening, but he was able to expedite his development. He ended up in the AHL this year and got to get a lot of good games in with the Ontario Reign. So by the time we did end up seeing him last night play with the Kings, his development was probably further along than it would have been before. So it's a blessing in disguise that the OHL didn't happen this season, and I kept kind of reflecting upon that last night and how that kind of put him in the best position for his debut. So, Jesse, how you doing? You got any audio over there? Nothing. How about a computer microphone? If you unplug everything and just use your laptop mic, what does that sound like?
Well, let's find out. I don't know.
Yay! We can hear you that way. That's okay for us if it's okay for you. I just lost you again. Yeah, take everything out. Now we can't hear you anymore. I don't know what's going on, Jesse. Oh my goodness. I'm patient enough too, and I'm sure everybody watching is too. The beauty of live internet TV. Should we? We'll still wait for you, Jesse. How about on your PC on the OBS screen? Hey, producer Chris. Shall we come back? Yeah? Yeah? Let's see if he works now. Jesse? I can hear you now. Wait. Oh my goodness. We're still live, yeah.
All right, sorry everybody. There I am. Okay, so as I was saying,
a lot of patience.
Yeah, as I was saying, and I think I heard you say at the end there, Carlin, that he came up through the AHL, played for the Ontario Reign, developed incredibly well over the course of that season. Had a chance to talk to Coach Wroblewski. He had nothing but nice things to say. And I thought Todd McClellan's assessment matched not only mine, but also what I saw from tons of fans in this morning's media availability.
Of course. How you doing now, Jess? You good?
I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
And I think we've got...
Hi, Todd.
There we go.
Just in falling under the category of never assume anything, will Quinton be in the lineup tomorrow?
He will be, yes.
Okay. Just curious if you've had another chance to look at the video of his game and anything else stand out to you following looking at it again.
Yeah, we did. Like any day, we review the game and review it from a team perspective as well as individual. And we played close attention to his game, and there was a lot of confident, poised plays that he made. I think about him stepping onto the ice for his first shift. He didn't even get to take a stride, and he had to make a real quick puck decision, put it on somebody's tape, and up it went. Competed well in the face-off circle, put himself in a position to score numerous times, especially in the third period. I think he got better as the night went on. We felt good about playing him on the power play. The concepts that they worked on at the American League level showed up for him. I think he even penalty killed a little bit for us. So a pretty complete night for a really young man, and hopefully we can grow that as we move forward.
So there you have it. Todd McClellan with plenty of nice things to say about Quinton Byfield in his first NHL game. We're going to now take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Kwame Mason, director of Soul on Ice and co-host of the Soul on Ice podcast with Kings prospect Akil Thomas. We'll be right back.
The black men of the community could not play hockey with the white hockey teams in the area. They were just segregated.
We've got some season ticket holders that are complaining about bringing you here.
I had to endure everything. All the name calling, the N-word, I heard it all.
He got death threats. You're playing the white man's game.
You know that you can compete with the best, but you're the wrong color.
For 12 years, we've been coming to hockey, and he's only the second one we've ever seen.
Was there a discrimination issue, or was it simply the fact that he was too proud to go to the minor leagues? And you can find good arguments on both sides.
There was racial slurs coming from every corner.
The only way to get back at him is to win.
Race, like so many other things, serve as a distraction. And the minute you allow it to distract you, you'll never reach your destination.
It doesn't matter what color you are. If you want to do something, you go and do it. And don't let anybody tell you can't do that.
Why wouldn't you play basketball, or why wouldn't you play football? And I'm like, why can't I play hockey? What's wrong with it?
And when we make it, we gon' put our soul on ice. Cause when they doubted us,
I didn't realize that at that time that I had broke barriers and opened doors.
They tried to get rid of us, but they need us.
Our job is to keep building. You got guys like Wayne Simmons and Chris Stewart and PK.
You need me. We double up when our numbers come through the TV. Soul on ice. I'ma put my soul on ice. Nice.
He had a dream to be a hockey player. He wasn't going to let anybody take that away from him.
They made it so much easier for us to come up and to play and to, to not think about color as a factor, and it's just based on our skill and not on our color.
Hockey's given me so many opportunities, and the only reason why I even have that opportunity is because of them.
Nice.
You owe it to yourself if you're playing a sport to know your history. Especially if you're black.
We are back, joined now by Kwame Mason, one of my favorite kinds of people, a polymath, multi-talented, multi-interest. How are you doing today, Kwame?
I'm awesome. How are you guys doing?
Doing quite well. Quite well.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Now,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, Kwame, we had you on All the Kings Men earlier this season, official podcast of the LA Kings, and Carlin and I both listened to Soul on Ice. But your influence on the LA Kings franchise seems to be growing month by month.
Huge. I'm thinking that there's going to be some money owed pretty soon. I'm looking for my checks.
I can send you a track jacket because I know.
I'll take the jacket, but I want one of them checks that say
Robitaille
at the bottom. I do want the jacket though. But no, it's awesome. Doing the podcast with Akil Thomas and his best friend Elijah Roberts has been great. And we had an episode where it was myself, Akil, Elijah, Quinton, Dustin, Quinton Byfield, Devontae, and who else did we have? Boku was on there. It was so much fun. So we kind of represented there. But I was telling you guys off air that Luc Robitaille owes me money. Akil Thomas owes me money.
We have to know why. We have to know.
Okay. So when the film came out in 2015, like 2016, we toured like most of the NHL cities and showed the film. So we showed the film in LA, and sitting beside me watching the film is Luc Robitaille. Yeah. And so we were watching. He was enjoying it. Then he had to leave and he had to come back. So he came back near the end of the film. And during the end of the film, there's this montage of shots of just some really cool family stuff. And there's this young man. He's just dilly-dallying with the puck, doing some really cool things. And I said to him, see that young guy right there? He is going to be drafted into the NHL. You guys need to keep an eye on him. His name is Akil Thomas. And then boom, he gets drafted to the Kings. And I said to myself, somebody owes me some money.
Shut the front door.
Oh, I'll give you another one. Where they
give us another one, please.
I got another one. So we Black Girl Hockey Club did something with the Kings, and they had their little event there. And I was out already shooting some stuff with a young girl in LA, so I went to the game as well. And my friend Blake, she's in San Diego. I was like, hey, you need to come up to LA. I'm going to the game. You want to come check the game? She's like, yeah, I'm coming up. So we're there. We're hanging out. Boom, boom, boom. Go back, and now they're just getting a tour of the building. All the whole group. Who comes in to say hello to everybody? Luke Robitaille. I said, Blake, you got to meet Luke. So I went up to Luke. I said, Luke, I want you to meet Blake Bolden, great gal, X, Y, and Z, and then the rest is history. So 2 checks need to be coming into the mail for my finder's fee.
I knew why she was there. I did not know you were the one that had introduced her, because oh my gosh, that's a part of her story. She always talks about how she was at that game, got introduced to Luke. Look at that.
Yep.
You should be a talent agent on the side.
I was going to say, I don't know if the organization owes you checks, but maybe you should be, vice president of hockey ops or something.
Yeah.
Well, in my days of working in radio, I did used to manage young artists, and I do have an eye for talent. I have one friend of mine. She's in Los Angeles right now, and she's an actress. And I discovered her working at Roots Canada. And then there's another young lady. She was a pop singer, and she did pretty good in her career. But my whole thing is I just love seeing the good in people.
Yeah.
And you could just bring it out of them. And as a director, that's kind of what you have to have, that type of an eye to see, the creative side. And I'm a kind of person, I just stare at people and I always just say, what could that person do if they had X, Y, and Z? So, I'm only kidding with the checks. I just, another thing I love to do is I just love to, if you're my friend or I love you or I appreciate you, if I can help you get somewhere, I'm going to do that. So again, Akil was at that time, when I was talking to Luke, he was still in, I think it wasn't his draft year yet. I think he had maybe like a year or 2 years left. Wow. But my whole thing is, I mean, that year when I was touring, I would tell every GM that I met, I'm like, Akil Thomas. So,
wow.
I just want to see my peoples do good, and you know what I mean. So, yeah,
that's impressive.
So you've had Quinton Byfield on. Presumably you've followed his career. Sudbury, not too far away from Toronto. He's the 2nd overall pick in the draft, so a known quantity. What are your initial impressions of Quinton Byfield, the person?
Goofy. He is.
Really?
He is
Okay.
Goofball. Like he's a very fun-loving, goofy kid that he's just fun to be around. And I think that's the kind of personality that hockey is going to really, really love. Excuse me for a second. I don't want no problems with my computer because it was dying. But he's just a really interesting kid, and he's got his own personality. He's got a lot of energy, and I think that's what hockey needs. You need to see that type of character, and I think Los Angeles is the best place for someone like him to be able to blossom and just get that energy. And as long as he focuses really hard on his game, I think the rest will take care of itself. And, I've said this from the jumpstart that the LA Kings have an opportunity to really change the way the game is looking in their hiring practices, their on-ice talent, just with like when I look at Quinton and Akil, I mean, like, I told them off air, like when we were recording podcasts, I said, like, you two should be like, peanut butter and jelly. You two can really change the way the game is looked at from a cultural standpoint. And so, to answer your question in a nutshell, he's a great kid personally wise, and I'm just really happy for all his success and what's the future. Like, I heard you guys talk about it. He's a kid.
Yeah. I feel like you're kind of changing the way that these players are going to end up being perceived because of your podcast. You're bringing things out of them that maybe a fan wouldn't be able to hear. Obviously they wouldn't be able to hear just by going to a game, right? But I can't think of, and this is maybe just me off the top of my head, but Jesse, I can't think of another podcast that has an AHL player being able to be candid like Akil is. and it's such a refreshing take on hockey and life. And was that the intention with it, is to just kind of showcase these young players' personalities and bring that out, because that's just so rare to begin with, and I can only think of a handful of podcasts that even get to have players on there.
Yeah, first and foremost, it was Akil's and Elijah's idea to do the podcast. When they called me, I thought they were just wanting to talk to the big homie because I did radio, so I kind of know that world and what they need to do. So I was like, I'll help you guys. Whatever you need, I'll advise you how to do it. They were like, no, we want you to do it with us.
Yeah.
And so when we were thinking about what's the show gonna be, it actually took us about a year for us to even start it. But when we were thinking about what the identity of the show was going to be, the first thing I thought about was, for the first time, NHL fans can watch a kid from when he's in the AHL to possibly getting into the NHL. So you actually get to see that journey.
Yeah.
So there's times when Akil is on with us. Sometimes he's not because he's got a game. And we try to talk about that. We try to talk about what he's going through, and he'll talk about what he's going through. When he got the puck in the face and he, had the swelling in his eyes, and his frustration sometimes not scoring and getting out there and feeling good and talking about the game he had. We don't know how long this will go, but I think it would be really cool for it to have a little life to it, so that people can actually be like, oh man, I remember hearing you when you were just an AHL player. Now you're an NHL player, and look at you now. So yeah, that's a really cool observation that you saw, because that was kind of in our pitch. That was what it was, is to be able to have the audience see the growth of a player.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah, Jesse, go ahead.
It's also a really convenient case of timing, because as technology evolves, as our ability to interact with other people, whether it's social media, podcasts, video shows like this, the younger generations are going to be more natural at it than we are. And one of the things that's impressed me about a lot of the younger players, but Quinton Byfield in particular, is the answers. There was a stretch of maybe 10 to 20 years as professional athletic contracts got bigger and bigger and bigger, where the answers to interview questions became more and more robotic, and you would know exactly what you were going to get. But younger and younger kids were really good at it, right? So you'd ask a 16-year-old kid, a 15-year-old kid, oh, you're having a lot of success. What did you think? And 200-foot game, 60-minute effort, pucks in deep, and you'd get it. And it was like younger and younger, because kids understood what was at stake financially, right, in order to succeed or not succeed. But now what you're getting in these younger guys like Akil Thomas and Quinton Byfield and the rest of them is they can give you those robotic answers when the situation is appropriate, but they can also then carry a show being totally vulnerable and honest about their real life experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I talk to Akil about that all the time, about just being confident and having conversations, because the interesting thing is a lot of these athletes look up to the LeBron Jameses and the Marshawn Lynches and the great superstars of all these sports. And so when I talked to him, I said, well, why do you guys now not embrace that type of conversation? You have to understand that hockey is a sport, but when you guys get to the place of the NHL, it's sports entertainment. You cannot forget that it's entertainment. I want you to entertain me. And I think that's what the younger generation is starting to really understand, is I need to entertain these fans, because I need to develop my brand so that I can take it to that next level. You saw, really PK Subban was kind of like really, I don't want to say he's like the first, but he was almost the first to really come in there and try to brand himself and just to go into a lot of different areas. And the guy like Akil, with his clothing line, Zale Apparel, is the same type of idea, being able to brand himself. And so the way Zale becomes successful is twofold. One, he's got to do great on the ice. He's got to be very productive for the LA Kings, put up the points, and really be a great great person to watch from the fans' perspective. And two, he's got to have his personality out there. If he's a robot, people are going to be like, yeah, I like your clothes, but you're not attractive to me. So he's starting to understand that. If you listen to our first podcast to where we are right now, you could actually see the evolution in their conversations, in their comfortability. I tell Akil all the time, I'm like, you're so much better in talking to guests. You're so much better in taking your life experiences and transitioning that into a question for that person. So I think that's going to help him down the line. And, you know, when I invite other players and guests, I really want to bring that out in them. It doesn't matter who you are. I just want to have fun with them. It's just like we had Gary Bettman on the show, and you know, when I pitched it to him, first of all, Gary was like, yeah, totally cool. And then, you know, his assistants were like, well, what are you going to talk to him about? I was like, I don't want to talk about, yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't want to talk to him about the bubble, return to play. I want to know about him. You know, in our conversation, we talked about, you know, 77 when he was a college student studying for the bar. Coincidentally, there was a blackout in New York, and that blackout was almost like the biggest moment that helped transition what hip hop would be, because that blackout, there was a huge, you know, a lot, not riots, but people were just stealing turntables left, right, and center. So everybody had a turntable. It's a very interesting story if you get to listen to the podcast about it. But my point being is, I want to bring out the personality in hockey because it's there and people need to hear it.
You're such a good conductor in the conversation too, because you allow the guys to be themselves, and it's so important for them to be able to do that, like you're saying. How much does that kind of grow the sport of hockey in a way as well? Because if you can imagine somebody who's maybe growing up and listening to your podcast for the first time, or you know, maybe someone who's never been to a game who's listening to your podcast for the first time. I mean, what do you hope your podcast can do in that regard? Because I just picture people, you know, getting into the sport and listening to what you all are saying and going, wow, I want to be a part of that. That sounds so fun.
Well, I think the main thing is to be able to, first of all, you know, as we know, you know, hockey has had a problem being very inclusive. And what we really wanted to do with, like, for my main goal in my life's purpose right now when it comes to hockey is to normalize minority faces and voices. We've got to make these things normal. We got to make women normal in the game of hockey. We got to make LGBTQ normal in the game of hockey. Black faces and voices normal in the game of hockey. So when you come to our podcast, I don't want people to be like, oh, there's some black guys doing a podcast. But at the same time, I want somebody to notice that and be like, oh, you know what? It's just a different take on it. But it's still hockey. They still know the sport. They still love the sport. They're just adding their different type of flavor. Like, you're not going to get a hockey podcast that's going to have your top 5 songs that we're talking about, DMX and Busta Rhymes and, you know, all these different music, how music influences, you know? So we're trying to bring a little flavor to it, because I think that's another thing that the game is missing. And, you know, your comment as being the conductor, you know, I'm so blessed that I had 14 years of being on the radio and interviewing so many really great artists. Like, you know, my first television interview was with Jay-Z, and that was his first album. And my first radio interview was with Eminem, and that was his first album. So I'm just trying to take that, what I learned there, and put that into the hockey world, because I think sports and entertainment, you know, it's one and the same. And when it comes to music, it's so much a part of it, you know, and I just want to get that. Like, there's a young man out in Los Angeles. His name is Jordan Buhat. He's from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and he's on a hit show called Grownish. No one would know this, but this kid is a diehard hockey fan, and we brought him on the podcast. And these are the things I think are going to help grow the game, because we're going to connect the dots in all these different places.
Well, you're talking about music there, and I'm going to make a button hook all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, linking your interest in the LA Kings. Kwame, you're wearing a Kiss shirt there. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Kiss played the first Stadium Series game between the Kings and the Ducks at Dodger Stadium. So there you go. One last connection.
Gene Simmons took my glasses off my face that game.
No, Gene Simmons, like, as a kid, those were my superheroes, you know? And so I always, they were my superheroes growing up, you know? And oh man, if I was so funny because my aunt used to have the platform shoes that go up high. When we were kids, we put on the Kiss album and we throw on the platform shoes and we just be stomping around there.
How do you not break an ankle in those?
I know.
Oh my god.
Well,
so much fun.
Yeah.
Kiss was your superhero. We're hoping that Akil Thomas and Quinton Byfield wind up as the
They will.
superheroes for some kids growing up these days.
They will.
Kwame, we want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a blast. We got to get you guys on the podcast. I think that would be
Anytime.
totally dope.
Anytime.
You know?
Oh my gosh, we'd be honored.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do
Wow.
it. Let's do
Absolutely.
it. I think that would be so cool.
All right. Please do check out the Soul on Ice movie or the Soul on Boat and the Soul on Ice podcast, not or the Soul on Ice podcast, and enjoy the rest of that. Thanks again, Kwame. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Peace out.
you.
Howdy. Five.
All right, big thanks to Kwame Mason, and big apologies from me for having technical difficulties early in the show, which sort of delayed us. So we're going to wrap it up real quick, though, Carlin. Quinton Byfield, King of the Week. Congratulations to him.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to seeing him play. Unclear how many games they'll get him into in the remainder of the season. They've got one more call-up left, so we still may get to see one more player recalled from Ontario, whether it is Akil Thomas or Alex Turcotte or Arthur Kalia for another game. Who knows? So lots of stuff to be excited about. Huge thanks to all the Kings fans that have been coming out to Staples Center. Huge thanks to producer Chris, everybody behind the scenes at the Kings, and of course Mercury Insurance for looking for the super fan. Thanks to you, Carlin.
Thank you, Jesse.
And apologies to you for having to work tomorrow on your birthday.
Oh. It's okay. It's against the Ducks, and hopefully we win, and then it'll be a great birthday present.
So thanks to everybody out there, and happy birthday to Carlin Baith. I am Jesse
Thank
Cohen.
you.
We'll talk to you next week.